The battle for Anazote. Revolt is over 6, and Sophia is not leading the revolts. Seems good. The dark void beyond the walls of Anazote is lit by hundreds of lights. Heavy boots tread the soil, armor clanks, halberds gleam, drums beat a lively march. Lit by the glow of torches, the Magran Legion approaches the city wall. The Imperial army finally arrives to put an end to this unfathomable revolt. Gaius Tempest himself leads the Legion. It is the Overseer's duty to crush the revolts this very night and pacify the city before news of the incident spreads throughout the Empire. If the Overseer's hesitation allows the revolt to last even a few days, it could jeopardize not only his position, but even the fate of the entire province that has been entrusted to him. An entire city rebelling against the Imperial rule? Nothing like this has happened for generations. The decisions you made today have compelled most of the people of Anazote to join the revolt. By nightfall, the rebels have gained the upper hand. The defenders of the Empire have no hope of victory. They may have amassed a considerable army to fight the revolt, but they came too late. The troops loyal to the Empire have reached an impasse. The entire city has risen against them. Exhausted and demoralized by the futile fight, many Imperial loyalists leave their camp or surrender to the rebels. Only the inexorably approaching Legion separates the revolt from total victory. The time for rioting and lawlessness has passed. Now all forces of the revolt have joined forces in pursuit of a single goal: to hold the city. The main forces of the revolt maintain order in their camp with a firm hand. There are still many insurgents who are ready to fight to the true death for their cause. The soldiers of the last straw, reckless conspirators and dangerous fighters, taught by Sophia to struggle against the old order until the bitter end. Zealous new believers who would rather face execution than betray their family. Poor nobles and former Legion soldiers who have joined the revolt in violation of their oath of loyalty to the Empire. They know there will be no mercy for them, so they have nothing to lose. All the remaining rebel forces gather at the fortified base by the city gates. The rebels have surrounded it with barricades, preparing to repel an attack from either side. The soldiers of the revolt, some armed with spears and axes, some with firearms, and some with simple rocks, hastily assemble atop the walls. The Legion gets into formation in front of the gate, ready to begin the assault as soon as their commander gives the order. The defenders atop the walls respond by raising their firearms. A herald from Gaius Tempest comes forward, stopping mere steps from the gate. He loudly proclaims the Overseer's demands. "My subjects, lay down your arms this instant and open the gates. I know that you have been deceived by the insurgency. You have my word as an Arcanian ruler that I will spare anyone who aids the Legion and turns over the leaders of the revolts. Should you disobey this order from your lawful ruler, none of you will escape disgrace, execution, and eternal torment at the foot of the Shining Pillar." The Legion Herald proudly lifts his head, awaiting the rebels' decision. You cast a quick glance at your allies. The time for preparations has ended. Everything depends on the size of your army and the balance in the city between the forces you have managed to win over and those you have antagonized. The next hour will determine your place in history. We could die for the revolts. That doesn't seem great. We could flee the city. Or defend the city. I don't really see a point in dying for the revolts. Your troops will protect the city against the first assault of the Imperial forces, but this battle will not be the last. Alright. We will defend the city. Muskets in hand, the soldiers on the walls freeze in anticipation, awaiting your decision. For the last time, you consider the consequences. The fate of Anazote depends on your reply. You cast a glance over the imposing ranks of your rebel troops. Most of Anazote's commoners have already sided with the revolt. You know your answer. From atop the city gate, you proclaim that the Overseer no longer has any subjects in this city. From this day forth, Anazote is free. Hundreds of allies roar in support behind you. We're no servants of yours anymore. Get lost. The herald silently retreats to the Legion formation. There's a brief moment of quiet. Holding your breath, you watch the menacing enemy army. Finally, the silence is broken by a drum roll and the stamping of thousands of feet. The Legion is about to attack. To arms! While your soldiers are preparing to face the Legion assault, you consider your plan to defend your position. You swiftly give orders to the squads on the wall, as though placing toy soldiers. The fortress of Anazote has withstood many an assault. These stones saw many battles before the foundation of the Empire. The Legion, on the other hand, rushed here equipped with nothing but jerry-rigged siege ladders. Gaius Tempus needs to pacify the city this very night. Therefore, his soldiers will try to make their way over the wall, open the gates from the inside, and let the main forces in. Legion, attack! The Overseer sends his first battalion at the walls closest to the gates. The Archnian remains with his elites, cavalry observing the assault from afar. You order the gunmen to take cover behind the Merlins? Yeah. The rest of the soldiers need to throw back the siege ladders, no matter the cost. Not a single legionnaire can be allowed to scale the wall. From atop the gate, you watch intently as the ranks of the Legion begin the assault. When the time is right, you order your gunmen to fire. The first ranks of the Legion soldiers are felled by rebel muskets. Most of their bodies glow dimly and turn to ash, but some remain where they lay. Legion veterans who have met their fourth and true death. The gunfire is followed by a volley of stones and arrows. The wave hits the wall and recedes. The first attempt to storm the wall has been thwarted. The rebels jeer at the retreating Legion soldiers, but you urge them to stay alert. That was just the beginning. Ready? Take the wall! Come on, men! They're just commoners! They don't stand a chance against you! The Legion begins its second attack. This time, Gaius Tempus sends 2 battalions of heavy infantry at the wall, to the left of the gate. They are followed by archers. Not even gunshots can stop this attack. The ladders fly up. A hail of arrows pelts your position. Hold the line! The defenders on the wall attempt to throw the ladders back, hurtling stones at their assailants and pouring boiling oil on them, but the onslaught is too strong. One by one, the Legion soldiers begin to leap from their ladders and onto the city walls. If you falter now, all is lost. You gather your best men and send them against the Legion soldiers. The walls erupt into bloody mayhem. All over the walls, the bodies of the fallen fade into brilliant flashes of light. You and your soldiers desperately hack, shoot, and hurl enemies from the walls. The siege ladders fall to the ground below. The attack has been repelled. Twice more, Gaius Tempus orders his troops to attack the wall. Twice more, the walls are stained with blood. Twice more, your soldiers withstand the onslaught. The enemy cannot break through your defenses. The dawn is drawing near. Even from your position on the wall, you can see how slowly and hesitantly the Legion soldiers reform their ranks. The Overseer himself appears hunched over, deflated. You order your men to freeze. You need to hear to the enemy commander's orders to his troops. Legion, you have fought valiantly. I have nothing to reproach you with, but I do not want any more losses of life. We cannot take the city today. We will retreat. A bewildered murmur ripples through the ranks of the Legion. But soon, we will return in much greater numbers and restore lawful imperial rule in Anazote. Gaius Tempus turns to face the city and proclaims loudly so that you can hear every word he utters. Madmen! You have doomed your city. It will be destroyed. I was not your enemy. I gave you a path to salvation, but you spurned my gracious offer. Now all the might of the Empire will be upon you. The punishment for your insolence will be terrible indeed. Your soldiers respond with impudent mockery. Beat it! Get lost, Blueface. You're not in charge anymore. You can't tell us what to do. The Overseer disregards their mocking cries. Legion, marching formation. Gaius Tempus casts one final glance at the walls of Anazote and leaps into his saddle. And the Legion gets into formation and marches away from the city. You have won! The surviving defenders on the walls lean against the Merlins, exhausted or simply collapse. Down by the gate, you hear triumphant shouts like a wave. They roll further over the streets and squares, over the entire city. You have won. Anazote has repelled the attack. The city is free. Leading your loyal supporters, you come down from the walls. You are ragged, wounded, barely able to stand. You have achieved the unthinkable. Not only have you freed your city from centuries of slavery, you have even defended it against the Overseer himself. At least for now. Gaius Tempest is right. Now Nazote will have to face the entire Imperial army. But you have won the first battle, and you will continue the fight. Even completely surrounded, even with no hope of winning, there is no turning back. And if your mission is doomed to fail, you'd rather die for it than keep enduring perpetual injustice, tyranny, and cruelty. You look back at your city, lit by the rising dawn of a new day. Leaning against the wall, you take a deep breath. Is it over? No. The fight for Anazote has just begun. And even if you are not destined to see it finished, you have played your part in this story. You think about the years gone by, all the difficult decisions you had to make, all the actions that helped you take your place in the annals of history. You, Brian Brante, are the reason the city of Anazote rebelled against Imperial rule and stood its ground against the Legion. Your destiny has been fulfilled. Exhausted. Yeah.
We managed to defend the city, wresting our freedom from the clutches of the Empire. But for how long?
Well, how long? A new day dawns. It is morning. You stumble along a now empty back street, utterly exhausted after the most trying night of your life. An elderly stranger in a threadbare cloak shambles down the road in the opposite direction. The old man looks around cautiously at every step, seemingly struggling to remember where he's going. As you approach him, he suddenly stops and speaks to you. Good morning to you. You slow down for the old man, and wearily return his greeting. May I ask you a favor, my friend? You barely have any energy to waste today, but there is something about this old stranger's voice that compels you to listen. A favor? What kind of favor? Well, my brother and I had a disagreement, you see, and I want to know who was right. Calling it right now, he's one of the gods. My brother says this world is already perfect as it is. The twins made it like this, after all. The old stranger pauses, casting a glance over the streets, the charred carcasses of buildings and homes, the overturned carriages, the dried bloodstains on the paving stones. But I told my brother that no matter what their initial design may have been, the world as it is now needs to change. So then my brother asked me what exactly needs changing, but I had no answer for him. So here I am, wandering around, tormented by this question. Would you help us settle our dispute, my good man? Who is in the right here, me or my brother? If you were in the twins' place, what would you do? What about this world needs changing? Say you would leave the world alone. Say you'd take better care of the world. Would free the mortals from the lots, or say nothing? I would say you should free the mortals from their lots. Abused hierarchy is what led to all this. Now, of course, hierarchy isn't inherently evil, but a corrupt one is. And though perhaps it wasn't corrupt when it was established, the lots and the hierarchy that exists in this world certainly has been corrupted and should be done away with. You put a hand on the old man's shoulder. Why, this quarrel was settled long ago. All the suffering in the world, all the injustice, all the wickedness, it all stems from the error made by the prophet Isatius. The lots were forced upon people by other people, and the twins have been condoning it for centuries, thereby dooming their creation to eternal suffering. You may have met many people in your life who rejected the lot of their birth, but their intention was never to defy the law of the twins. They sought only to be free from other mortals. If you were the twins, you would make it known that everyone is free to find their own path to them. And then step by step, their divine design would attain perfection all by itself. The old man looks at you in surprise. Oddly enough, he seems to be completely unaware of the new faith. But then, how can you tell the righteous from the wicked? You readily explain the wicked are those who willingly choose to defy the twins and the eternal bliss they bring. The righteous, on the other hand, are those who seek the twins within themselves, who pray to them, seeking their guidance and approval. Everyone should be free to choose their own lot and bear their own burden. Then we will remain within the twins' great design, but be free to find our own place within it. The stranger spends a long time pondering what you have told him. I can feel the pain and the truth in your words. Thank you, Brian, for settling our disagreements. The old man rewards you with a slight nod, then slowly walks away. Wait, how did he know your name? You spin around, but the street is empty. Outcome of the revolt. You took command of Anazote and fended off the Legion's attack. The rebellious city remained yours. The rebels celebrated. For the first time in history, the Imperial army was powerless against the will of the common people. Now Anazote would become a free city ruled by its people, where all estates would be equal. But the leaders of the revolt barely had time to establish this new rule before the city was surrounded again, this time by armies and noble militias from nearby provinces. The Imperial authorities preferred to see the rebellious city razed to the ground rather than let it foment further unrest. You fended off their assaults one by one. Then came a long, grueling siege. Supplies soon ran thin. The rebels' morale began to decline. With each passing day, it became harder and harder to maintain order on the streets. New traitors appeared one after another, eager to open the gate to the enemy in exchange for a pardon. Illness, hunger, and despair gripped Anazote. After a year-long siege, the rebellious city fell. The Imperial army finally managed to breach the gates. Ready to punish Anazote cruelly for its impudence. By the Emperor's own order, the city was made as an example for the rest of the Empire. All the leaders of the revolt were hanged, and many more rank-and-file rebels were tortured or executed. The Leacher established strict martial law in Anazote, and this uncompromising rule continued for many years. Once the rebellion had been silenced, the province finally entered a time of peace. The common folk were finally pacified, and no one else had the nerve to lead an armed insurgency against the Overseer's lawful rule. And yet, the year of Anazote's freedom from the Empire made its mark. In time, the rest of the Empire learned of the just and lawful system the rebels had established in the rebellious city, no matter how briefly. The Crown worked hard to stamp out the very memory of the revolt, but its efforts were in vain. The tale of the Anazote revolt took root in the hearts of the people, sowing seeds of hope. They hoped for a new revolt someday, somewhere. A revolt that would emerge victorious. Well, that's bittersweet. What about me specifically? Power? The common estates achieved its goal and won the rights and freedoms it sought. Liberated from the noble yoke, the people of Anazote became a force to be reckoned with. The old restrictions imposed on industrialists and merchants of the common lot were lifted. The land and estates of the noble families that fled the city were seized. Now the citizens had to learn to govern their city and manage their lives all on their own. The coming war does not frighten the people of Anazote. They are already rallying other cities in the province to their cause. They will not surrender their hard-earned freedom without a fight. The Church. The clash between the old faith and new continued. As the schism in the clergy grew, the people of Magra remained similarly divided. Neither doctrine has enough power to prevail over the other, so the venomous accusations and fervent disputes continue. The Inquisition is powerless to end the struggle. The strife between the faiths will continue to fester. The people of the province and the Empire will never be at peace until they decide which path of worship is the one that leads to the twins. Wealth of Magra. The farmers, miners, and tradesmen of Magra managed to survive the years of unrest. Once those dark days were behind them, they quickly recovered. The fields, filled with imported soil, continued to supply the people with food, and the Magran silver mines maintain a steady flow of the blessed metal of the rest of the empire. Whatever happens next, the province is safe from poverty and hunger. Order. After years of unrest and strife, the people have grown harsh and bitter. The rebellion survives in the province's smaller villages and towns, and again it manifests itself as petty acts of violence and insubordination. As respect for imperial law dwindled, gangs of criminals began to form and grow in power. Although the city of Anazote and the rest of Magra are mostly calm now, the new age has brought neither order nor peace. Turmoil still simmers beneath the surface, ready to spill out onto the streets at the slightest provocation. Divine Omens. The Anazote revolt was followed by more omens that shook the empire. In every temple throughout the empire, the symbols of the sacraments, the lash, the sword, the book, turned to ash in an instant. The commoner's scars left by the sacramental lash all disappeared overnight, completely healed. All across the empire, priests and laymen debated the meaning of this sign, but the twins have uttered their word. What became of Dorius Autumn? Until the very end, the Arcanian commander refused to acknowledge that the laws that governed the lowly lot held sway over him as well, and yet, thanks to you, he finally faced justice. The once renowned descendant of the Autumn dynasty met an ignoble end on the gallows, a terrible blow from which his family never recovered. With the death of its last living son, the venerable Autumn blood tide ran dry. What became of Augustin Elborn? Prefect Augustin Elborn came incredibly close to fulfilling his lifelong dream. The revolt gave him the opportunity to usher in a new kind of society, but the prefect did not live to see it. He joined the rest of Anazote's defenders in the final fights. The prefect was captured and stripped of his noble title for the crime of treason, then hanged in disgrace. Elborn faced death with dignity and did not utter a single word of regret for what he had done. The former prefect is remembered as one of the leaders of the revolt, though he did not live long enough to witness the coming of a new age. What became of Father Lennart? Abbot Lennart failed to attain his lifelong goal of becoming patriarch. Rejected by the twins, he renounced the priesthood and became a hermit. Long after he left the city, many new believers sought his guidance, searching high and low for the former abbot. No one ever found him. Lennart is remembered by the new believers as the greatest preacher of his day, but among old believers, he left an undying legacy as a nemesis of the church who violated the twins' divine design. What became of Thomas? Thomas Guerrero always tried to make his own way in the world, but his independence became his undoing when he fell afoul of Dorius Autumn, the military commander of Magra. The noble lot did nothing to protect Thomas from the whims of the mightier Arcanian. As the empire was consumed by unrest, no one noticed or remembered the final death of a legion officer by the name of Thomas Guerrero. What became of Octavia? Having fallen into the hands of the Inquisition, Octavia was doomed. After an extensive, lengthy, and brutal interrogation, they burned this strange being at the stake for the crime of heresy. Not even the Archduchess's noble birth could spare her from the punishment of the Church. The Inquisition proclaimed that Octavia Milanides had died long ago, her mortal body occupied by an abhorrent monstrosity spawned from the ancient past. They say that the creature that was once Octavia Milanides remained silent during the execution even as its body was engulfed in flames. There's nothing left of Octavia, not even ashes. What became of Sophia? It was your duty to stop Sophia. The leader of the last straw was executed by your hand. Some remember her forever as a great freedom fighter who struggled for the good of the common folk. Others call her a vicious murderer who threatened to raze the empire to the ground. What became of the Brante family? You defended the family home from the frenzied mob. The Brante family remained aloof from the struggle on that fateful day. Thanks to your efforts, they survived the dreadful night that followed. But this challenge was only the first of many. The city was besieged. They were to remain there. Were they to remain there, they would have been doomed to hardship and certain death. Faced by an agonizing choice, you decide to part ways forever. While Anazote was preparing for another attack by the Empire, you guided your family beyond the city walls in secret. Your actions cost the Brante bloodline what remained of its honor. Now branded as rebels, your family must roam the Empire, looking for a new place to take shelter. Left without a home, influence, or friends, the Brontes have fallen on hard times. But they are ready to face the future bravely, as long as they have each other. Your family will always remember what you did for them. What became of Robert Brante? Your father lost his status, his career, and his home. The rebellion destroyed Robert Brante's life and gave him nothing in return. When the world changed, your father found himself unable to adapt and find a new place in it. He had no choice but to abandon his ambitions and live in obscurity. His family was all he had left, so he dedicated himself to caring for its well-being. What became of Lydia Brante? Your mother passed away from illness long before these events transpired. Lydia Brante was not there to see what became of her family. What became of Stefan Brante? Stefan never accepted the new order you were fighting for, but after you struggled selflessly for the good of the city, even he could recognize your commitment and dedication. You were never able to see eye to eye again, but when you parted ways, you were not enemies. You were still brothers. In a bid to restore law and order in his home city, Stefan attempted to join Gaius Tempest's forces. To your elder brother, the unrest and riots were an opportunity to convert his lifelong ambitions into honor and status for his family. By that time, however, the Brante name had been tainted by the revolt. Stefan's request was refused by the overseer himself, who told him to get out of his sights. Still determined to set right all the things that had gone wrong for him, Stefan left for Eterna, hoping to make his way in the world through loyal service in the Emperor's own court. But news of the Brante family's disgrace made its way to the capital before Stefan arrived. As his desperation grew, Stefan began dueling anyone who disparaged the Brante name. It was in one of these duels that your elder brother met his final death. What became of Gloria? Gloria's new life as a nobleman's wife put an end to her youthful ardor. When she moved to her husband's home, her fervent poetry and her struggle in the name of the common folk remained in the past. She languished in her newfound monotony, at first mourning her fates. But her connection to the Brante family remained. Through this surviving link, Gloria found the strength to overcome her alienation and pull herself out of the depths of melancholy in which she was mired. Slowly but surely, she came to recognize and accept the genuine love of Sir Jose L. Pelletier, and in time, she responded to his selfless and cordial care with deep gratitude. Gloria eventually came to terms with her newfound life in the noble estate far from the city. She soon gave birth to the first of their children, and dedicated herself to raising the heir of the great L. Pelletier bloodline. And so Gloria spent the rest of her life far from the turmoil of in Anazote, surrounded by comfort and warmth until the end of her days. You know what? Good for her. That is, I think, by far the best outcome anyone has gotten so far. See, I told you the marriage was for your own good, Gloria. What became of Nathan Brante? Dazed by the changes brought by the rebellion, Nathan Brante found himself completely lost in the world around him. As the burden of his past sins grew more and more unbearable, he retreated into his own mind until not even his own family could reach him. In the end, his despair drove him away from the family home. He roamed Magra as a vagabond, devoid of all purpose. Nathan wantonly squandered the rest of his lives, one by one, in meaningless fights. He died his true death in a drunken brawl in a filthy roadhouse somewhere on the outskirts of Magra. What became of Gregor Brante? He's dead. Not even in the afterlife did Gregor Brante see the realization of his great dream. His descendants failed to have the Brante name ennobled by the sword. The Brante bloodline was denied its chance to become one of the Empire's most eminent dynasties. The blood tide ushered in by Gregor Brante would never have another chance at immortality. What became of you? Yeah, that doesn't look good. By taking charge of the city's defenses against all odds, you doomed yourself in an uneven fight against the far superior might of the Empire. The people chose you as the first and only governor of the free city of Anazote. Under your leadership, the city's free militia managed to fend off many assaults by Legion forces from all across the Empire. Even as the city grew worn and desperate throughout the never-ending siege, you remained there to make sacrifices that had to be made and maintain order within its walls. But there came a day when the city's defenders finally had no more strength left to fight. At last, the Imperial legions breached your defenses. You fought on the walls of Anazote until you could no longer stand, and were captured alive. By the order of Emperor Othar II himself, you were brought to Eterna, where you were brutally executed as a lesson to other would-be enemies of the Tempest dynasty's rule. You faced that reckoning proudly and without fear. You knew that the cause you had fought for would live on. So ended the life and suffering of Brian Brante. Oh, true death. The hour of your death has come. Your soul has left your body, never to return. You are taken to the peak of the Shining Pillar. Every moment separates you more and more from the mortal realm. The link that once bound you to it is gone forever. You look up to see two divine visages, watching you intensely. The elder twin gazes upon you, full of sorrow and compassion. The younger examines you dispassionately, seeing your every act and thoughts. You have ascended from the mortal realm. From here, you are but one step away from partaking in eternal bliss atop the peak of the Shining Pillar. But first you must be judged by them, just as every other soul born in this world has been judged since time immemorial. Only their judgment can decide whether you deserve to remain atop the peak or be hurled down to the foot. You stand before the twins. Your very essence is laid bare before them. All the secrets of your inner self revealed in full. Your soul is like an open book to them, one that preserves the story of your entire life. You lie prostrate before the gods. The time has come to take responsibility for your mortal life. And the elder twin asks, are you thankful to the gods for the life you lived? I'd say I'm calm. They hear your answer. Compassion and remorse fill the immeasurably deep eyes of the elder twin. He turns to face his divine brother, who returns his gaze with an expression of stern remorse. The elder twin asks once more, what was your life to you? A struggle. The elder twin bows his head wearily, considering your response, but the stern visage of the younger already looms above you. Human by the name of Brante, what did you live for? A cause. The younger's gaze lingers on your bare defenseless soul. The divine figure continues its stern interrogation. What did you leave behind? I'd say change. The younger twin now moves toward you with clear intent, poised to render his judgment, but the elder twin restrains his brother with a gesture. A divine voice fills you once again. Did your life make the world we made better and more perfect? I'd say it became better. The younger twin is silent, his eyes two swords piercing your soul. The elder twin speaks to you again, but you already know the question, the very same question that caused you so much suffering shortly before your true and final death. What determined your destiny? You know, it's the question we answered at the beginning of this, and after everything. Yourself. I took the reins of the rebellion, and forged my own path. The twin gods exchange a glance that lasts a brief moment, and all eternity. Then the hand of the elder twin reaches out to you, glowing with light and warmth. The gods offer you an unprecedented opportunity to change your destiny, to rewrite the book of your life. Would you like to take a different path in life? Yeah, our ending was kind of bittersweet. However, and you know, it's interesting. I think we could have actually gotten total victory if we abandoned our family. And that's actually an interesting debate of, like, is that what we should have done then? Because... And who was even left of our family at that point that was, like, in danger? Like, Robert, who had to get pretty miserable retirement. Stefan, who was just an outcast and ended up dying in duels for honor. And Nathan, who was even more in shambles than before and died for no good reason. One could argue that it wouldn't have been much worse if they had just died in the chaos of the revolt. And such a sacrifice might have allowed us to establish a more permanent victory. By actually, like, defeating the enemy. Because what happened is I lost the support of the commoners when I had to defend against them. Even so, that's a what if. We're not doing what ifs here, we are... This was the story of Brian Brante. A tragic tale. A tale of a man who rose up, challenged an authority much greater than himself, and though he didn't win, paved the way for future generations to fight and struggle for his values and his principles that he fought for. A martyr of history, I suppose. You reject the hand of the elder. The immense divine silhouette withdraws in sorrow. The younger twin steps forward, leaving you to face his law alone. The twin's judgment is nearing its end. The soul of a man named Brante lies prostrate at your feet. You have witnessed his entire life, known his every act, seen his every thought and desire. No other soul could ever walk the same path. So many difficult choices, so many emotions, so much pain. Another soul awaits your judgment. You know no mercy, nor does your brother. Wait, are we from the perspective of the twin now? Huh. Every mortal must walk the path chosen for him to the very end. Those who abide by the precepts set forth by you and your brother shall return to you and become a part of you. Those who reject you shall know the eternal suffering of oblivion. Where does the man named Brian Brante belong? I think he belongs at the peak, personally. I mean, I'm slightly biased, but that's where we're putting him. You gingerly grasp the fragile soul, lift it up, and turn to face your elder brother. You lift your sword, your brother stands with arms akimbo, ready for the blow. The blade slices through his chest. Blinding light gushes from the gash. You bring the minuscule soul to your brother's chest, and it dissolves in the streams of shimmering luminescence. A tiny fragment of your shared creation has rejoined the whole. The man named Brante is no more. There is only the eternal font, in which he now abides. Well then. Alright, y'all. It looks like it's over now. After a ending that really could give Return of the King a run for its money. We have finished a playthrough of The Life and Suffering of Sir Brante. Did we make the best choices all the time? No. Did we make the best choices most of the time? No. Did we have the best ending possible? No. But it wasn't a picture-perfect story, but it was our story. And I hope you all enjoyed coming along with me on this tale. I don't think we'll play through this again, so this is what we're left with. If you want to see what else can happen in this game, then I would probably recommend buying it. It's a pretty good game. But anyways, guys, till next time, I've been CMeeCraft. I probably should end my life first before, just to make sure there isn't some extra screen. Okay, we got credits. I mean, if something happens after the credits, I guess I can, like, cut in. Oh, pretty cool credits, so. Maybe we'll just let these play. These look like pretty nice credits. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah. Very interesting systems in play. Kind of choose your own adventure sort of thing, but with all of the stats and stuff interplaying, it adds some layers to it that you don't get in just straight up, like, interactive fiction all the time, you know? You know, all the resource management and, you know, needing to build up willpower and balancing that with actually, like, doing stuff and figuring out which stats you need to prioritize. And relationships. Which ones are worth pursuing, which ones you should cast by the wayside. What sort of extra, like, goals to go for. You know, things like the ennobling of the sword or just accruing a ton of money. It's, and it lives up to its name, I will say. The life and suffering of Sir Brante. It had a life, it had a suffering, lots of suffering, and it had Sir Brante in it. And yeah. Pretty good game, I will say. But anyways, guys, till next time, I've been CMeeCraft. I'm sure pretty soon some other series will replace this series kind of slot on the schedule. And I hope to see you then. But anyways, until next time, I have been CMeeCraft. And I will catch you in next video. Whatever it is. Goodbye.